course.
All right. It looks like I can share screens now. Well, you all, I did, I'll probably just mention a little bit of this when if other people join, we'll see who's going to join us here in just a little bit. But I did the high school newspaper when I was in high school as well. I went to high school over in Etowah County at Southside High School. So we had the Panther Press, and that actually started my journalism career. So I did journalism for many years before I transitioned into teaching full time. It's a lot of fun.
How's your day been?
You know what? It's been good. Thank you. We over here at the University of North Alabama, in my department, it's the Department of Communications. We don't really have any Friday classes, just very few. So Fridays tend to be a little quieter. Around here, we have a lot of classes that are Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And we try to fill those up during the day. So Fridays get kind of scarce, but we're in a similar situation as you all. We're trying to offer more in-person classes this spring, but we're also paying attention to COVID issues and trying to make sure that we're distanced. And if we can have some courses online, we've done that. But so we normally try to keep people in here for a short amount of time, just in class, and then let them get out of here. So we don't have as many students hanging around in our building as we did before the pandemic. So it gets kind of quiet. How do they do lunch for you all? What do they do? Do you still get to go in, or do you have to eat in your room now?
I think it alternates on a schedule of like certain classrooms go in the lunchroom, get their lunch, go back to the class. Some of them have lunch delivered to the class, and there are still some students that do eat in our lunchroom.
Really? So most of you all, though, are having to eat in your classrooms wherever you are for lunchtime?
With being in broadcast, I'm in it during our lunch block, so we just automatically eat in the classroom no matter what.
Yeah.
We've never really eaten in the lunchroom.
Yeah. So are all of y'all broadcast students, or is it a mix of just the broadcast and the newspaper, or what do y'all have there at Clay Chalkville?
So we have our yearbook staff, and then we have like broadcast journalism. So in here today is only broadcast because the yearbook students just didn't come in here. I don't know if they competed this year.
Really?
But we don't have a newspaper or anything.
Okay, so is the broadcast TV?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, cool. Well, my background was I did a little bit of TV, but mostly radio all of my years. And so it's a ton of fun. Any of you all thinking about radio potentially in there? It's fabulous.
I think starting a podcast was something that was mentioned between a couple of students, but I don't know that it's going anywhere right now.
Yeah, well, and you can't do everything, right? So just do what you can. But yeah, we have a broadcasting program here at UNA that we've spent the past few years trying to build up. And so we're still doing that. And it just takes a little bit of time. Actually, speaking of podcasting, we're going to try to do a little ribbon cutting in a couple of weeks, but our student media building, we've just installed and created a new podcast studio in there. We actually tore out the closets, tore everything out of those, and put a window in between them, and have made one side the production side and one side the sit around and talk in the mics side. And so we've almost got everything in there, but several of our students are talking about starting to do more of their podcasts in those facilities now. So it's a good time. The broadcasting stuff is a really good time for that. Television is always going to be there, still doing great, but the audio with radio and podcasting has really come back in a lot of popularity lately.
It's definitely taken off right now during the pandemic with everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Going on.
Yeah, indeed. So, hey, what year are all of you? Are all of you seniors or juniors, or how early?
So me and her are seniors, and then he's a freshman. He's a junior. She's a sophomore.
All right.
And some of the other students on the other side of the room are seniors.
Well, good for them. Are they going to be listening to another session over there?
I think so.
Yeah, terrific. Well, have you all have competed and attended this conference before? I know. Meredith Cummings does a great job of all of this, and to make all of this happen virtually, wow, really, really tough amount of work. But what I've seen so far today is that other than a few glitches, it's come across okay.
Yeah, we had trouble getting into a few of the sessions this morning that we were going to watch, but overall it's been pretty easy going.
Well, good. Is this one of the last sessions? Is this wrapping up about 3:30, 4
I
o'clock?
think I think there's one more session at around 3:30, a
Mhm.
set of sessions, and then awards start at 4.
Oh, good. So they still got the awards here at the end of the day. Yeah.
We
terrific.
we did a set of awards at lunchtime, and then we're doing like what would be on site and like carrying awards this afternoon.
Yeah. Terrific. That's great. Well, we're kind of right at 3, but I'll wait maybe just another minute, just in case some other folks might be coming in. And I don't know, most of you all who listed as attendees might have done it separately, but you're all together in the room. So we'll wait maybe another minute and then we'll get started because the 30 minutes is tight. But hey, how many of you all are thinking about studying journalism or some kind of communication wherever you're thinking about going to college?
I
Few
know
of
he
y'all?
is.
Yep, cool. Which part? Which one? Or not necessarily which college, but what field?
What field of journalism?
Currently I'm still deciding on which one I'm trying to which
Yep.
field I'm trying to go into.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact for college I do want to go for journalism.
Yeah, terrific. Yeah. I think something that I recommend for folks to do wherever you go to school is do as much of this as you can. Yeah, do the broadcasting stuff, the writing stuff, production, because it makes you really, really marketable once you get out of here. Okay, y'all. Well, hey, it's 3:01. Are y'all ready just to go ahead and jump in here?
Yeah.
All right. And you all can please feel free to
There you go.
invite anybody else who wants to come over. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll just do a quick, again, just a brief introduction of me. And I'm going to share my screen and pull up a PowerPoint. And we might go through this for maybe 12, 15 minutes, something like that.
Y'all sit in the frame. Y'all sit like behind the couch.
Yeah, you all just crowd in there as you want. And if you all like, you can do this too. If you want to keep your microphone on mute, that's cool. But if you also want to jump in as we kind of go, I really encourage you all to do that as well. Don't worry about just waiting until the end. In fact, I have a lot more fun with these when we actually talk to each other. And so what I'm going to do is share some slides with you all just about my leadership philosophy. And so I'll tell you a little bit about myself, first of all. Again, I'll introduce me. I'm Dr. Butler Cain. I am chair of the Department of Communications at the University of North Alabama. We're in Northwest Alabama in the city of Florence, in the Muscle Shoals area. So not too terribly far from you all. And we have several programs. Journalism is one of them. We call ours Journalism and Digital Media Production. We also have a public relations program, and we have a communication studies program. In my professional background, I was a journalist for many years, working primarily in broadcasting, broadcast radio, public radio, and did a little bit of commercial radio, but then did a little bit of TV and newspaper along the way. And so I've done some form of journalism, whether it's professional or academic, for a long time. So it's been really great. Oh, in fact, y'all, just a little personal trivia about me. I started at my high school newspaper back in 1991. So 2021 will be my 30th year in some type of journalism, mass communication. So yeah, right. Thanks. It just means I'm getting old and gray. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to tell you all, I have had the opportunity, it's come with some challenges, but I've had the opportunity to be placed in some leadership positions throughout the course of my career. And so what I have tried to do is learn from other leaders around me, but also I've had to learn some things the hard way. I didn't know it because I didn't know until maybe I made a mistake or I learned a year later, oh, this is how I should have done this. I wish I'd known that info then. And so what I want to do is I try to do this as often as I can when I'm talking to folks much like yourself. I try to encourage you, number one, to consider leadership positions now, or once you get into a collegiate journalism program, or whether you get into a professional journalism program, or whatever it is you decide to do in your career, whether it's journalism or mass communication or something completely different. Consider some leadership opportunities, because every organization and every profession and sector, we need really good, thoughtful leaders. And so what I want to do is share with you some of my philosophy today and show you some things that I promise you actually work. These things really work. And they're not tricks. They are practices and a certain type of mindset that I would encourage you to have. And it works really, really great in journalistic organizations. So we'll use our frame for journalism to talk about leadership. But to be truthful, the things I'll mention today really work for a lot of different settings. And so with that, I am going to share my screen. And if you all wouldn't mind, if you would just unmute yourself real quick and just let me know if what you are seeing is the PowerPoint, that it's coming along okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So everybody can see that okay, no problem? All right. Well, hey, yeah, there. So I know Meredith told me the toucan needs to show up somewhere. I decided not to hide it. There you go. So you can check it, do whatever you need to do.
Hold on, let's take a picture.
Yeah, do y'all need to take a photo of that? Go ahead.
Okay, I got it.
Do I need to give you a goofy thumbs up or something for that? Like,
Yes.
you know.
Hold on, it's loading. Okay, I got it.
All right. The only toucan I've ever come across is the one that sells Fruit Loops. So, okay, y'all. So check this out. Let's go ahead and get started here. So here's what I want to break down for you. You all really don't even necessarily have to take notes on any of this. I wasn't really expecting you to, but these things that I want to talk to you about for the next 12 to 15 minutes are really straightforward strategies, super easy to understand, super easy to remember, and a little bit of a challenge to practice consistently. So leadership is not something that just easily or naturally comes to everybody, but all of you can be a leader. And I want to make sure that you think about this in the proper, appropriate way to begin with, is that just because you might be placed in a leadership position does not make you a leader. That just makes you someone who has been placed in a leadership position, and they are different. And so the strategies I want to give you today are to help you fill those leadership shoes and kind of come into that on your own. So my leadership philosophy, I need to tell you what I really believe. Now, other people who might talk to you about this will have a totally different philosophy. It's totally fine. I encourage you all to seek others who are talking about leadership and see how they think about leadership and what their advice is. But mine is this right here. When you invest in other people's success, you are going to become successful automatically. And what I mean is this: if you focus and concentrate on helping everybody around you do their best and be their best, and you help them succeed, you as the leader are automatically a success, because all of these cool things are happening while you are leading the organization. So does that make sense to everybody? You can take advantage of everybody else's success as your own. So it doesn't mean steal their success. It just means promote what they're doing, and other people will say, wow, what a great organization you're helping to run. I'm sure people enjoy working there, and it's clear you like to help people out. So anything that you can invest in other people is going to come back on your success in a positive way. And I really believe that. I've seen that time and time again throughout my career. A couple of things to keep in mind. Their success, as I just said, is your success. If you promote the achievements of everybody around you, that's going to make them look good. It makes your organization look good. And somebody at some point will go, hey, this makes you look good too. Save the bragging on you for somebody else. Somebody will do it. But the more success you have around you, people will allow that to rub off on your activities as well. When we're talking about failure in a leadership position, adopt a collective ownership of that. Their failure is also your failure. Now, what I mean is you don't necessarily have to take everybody's blame and always blame yourself for something that goes wrong. What I mean is use language that indicates to everybody, hey, we didn't quite make this. I know we're all disappointed, but we'll figure this out and we'll make it better the next time. And I'm your leader. I'm the one charged with making all of this happen. I'll be the first to take responsibility. Let's see how we can do better. And if you'll notice, just about every word that I said in there was a we, us, our. And that's language that I would encourage you to use, and to avoid stuff like, wow, you really messed this up, or why didn't you do this? This was your responsibility. A leader recognizes that sometimes failure is going to happen and takes some responsibility for that by taking it off of everybody else and sort of turning it into a positive. How can we do better? Let's figure this out. The other thing is your failure should be your failure and nobody else's failure. And so if you did fail at something as the leader, it is your responsibility to say, hey, everybody, I messed that up. That's my bad, my fault. I should have done this and this. I didn't do that. I'm sorry. This would be the one time where you don't want to have the collective ownership, because then the people around you get angry and irritated at you, right? If something is truly your fault, you didn't quite do what you needed to do, but then you sort of try to pass the blame on to everybody else. Nobody likes that. So a true leader will celebrate everybody else's success as her or his own, but give them the credit for it. Accept collective failure, but then when it is really your issue, you accept it, let everybody know, and then we move on. Hey, by the way, let me stop right there really quickly. Does anyone have a quick question or idea or thought related to that? On the surface, does that kind of make sense to you? Okay, cool. We'll keep going. By the way, I do seriously mean you jump in anytime. And so if you got a hand, or have your classmate right here turn the mic back on, you just jump in and we'll go from there. So how do you become a leader? It's not as simple as being tapped for a leadership position and then told, okay, it's yours, here you go. So here's what I really believe a leadership position requires. It's a process, which means you've got to do things over and over again and refine that process. It's a practice, which means you're doing things in a particular way every day or every week. And it's also about an attitude. Leadership comes with making sure that you think of your position as sort of this sacred responsibility, and less so the idea of being a boss. So I tend to think that leaders and bosses are not the same thing. Leaders are the ones who get down with everybody and help lead the way and drive the progress. Bosses tend to be the ones who are kind of telling everybody what to do and not really being engaged. And so I would like for you all to become leaders. So as you can see down here, you do have to plan, and you have to use a plan. You have to make intentional effort on this, and it takes time, because there are going to be some people, and this is totally fair, where if you are going to assume leadership and they are going to treat you as a leader and recognize you as a leader, you've got to earn that. So having the position gets you only so far. You've got to show them that you have earned it and that you are capable of doing the job. And when you do that, you'll develop a lot of their loyalty and protection, and they'll want to make sure that you're doing great too. So one last thing to speak on for leadership, just focus on people. It's really easy. Sometimes leaders, people who are in a supervisory position, can get caught up too much on the task, getting the job done, the work. You've got deadline. With journalism and mass media, we are highly deadline driven. So we've got to get the product out. But a really effective leader still remembers that, hey, these are people who are doing these things. So let's make sure that we are properly motivating people and not necessarily trying to focus on the deadline, and we lose a little bit of our empathy or humanity along the way. People don't respond well to that, so try not to let that happen. So some leadership habits if you do have a leadership position. So I'm going to give you a do leadership position and no leadership position. So if you've got a leadership position, here are several things you can do. Help your colleagues. And I'll do a little running commentary for you all while I talk to you. One of the things that I have hated just about all of my life is someone who has been given a leadership position and they tell people, well, you need to do this. And they don't tell them how to do it. They don't give them any instruction. And they get irritated when it's not done the way they think it should be done. I'm sure some of you all have maybe run into that situation at some point in your life. That drives me nuts. So I think as a leader, you need to help your colleagues. Show them what you're talking about, explain it 2 or 3 times if you need to, and help them get on the path toward getting it right for everybody. Next little bullet point, volunteer for necessary, but maybe not fun. Oh, by the way, I should say this is without leadership position. You're not tasked as a leader. I got that backwards. This is if you don't have the position, but you're just doing the work and you want to be a leader. Second thing, volunteer for some of those duties that really have to be done, but maybe they're not fun. More often than not, the people who will kind of do the grunt work and are willing to do it and cheerful, a couple of things happen. Your leadership team and your teachers pay attention. They know the people who are showing a willingness to do the work that nobody else really wants to do. But the other cool thing that happens with this is that you actually start to learn other aspects of the job that other people didn't know because they weren't willing to do that work. And suddenly, as you are trying to climb that ladder into a leadership position or put yourself in a position to be chosen for that, if you are able to raise your hand when your teacher or the person hiring you says, hey, who's done a little bit of this? Well, who's done a little bit of that? How about this? Has anyone done that? Oh, I've done that too. So the more skills you have because you've been willing to do this other work, even when it wasn't assigned, that puts you in a better position to grab a leadership job down the road. Mentor the new arrivals. I know that one or two of y'all are freshman, sophomore in there. I'm sure that some of you who are juniors and seniors, part of your job was to bring other folks under your wing, let them know what the culture of the organization is, show them how you do work, what your expectations are, what the teacher expects you to do, and here's how you do that. You all have probably learned by now that the team overall functions much, much more efficiently and professionally when folks who aren't leaders take the new people under their wings and say, hey, let me tell you how things happen around here. I'll get you up to speed as fast as I can. Eventually, the people you have done that for will see you as a leader, whether you have a leadership position or not. And when you do have an official leadership position, they will be that much more willing to work for you and with you and to produce a really good product with you at their side. Seek advice and critiques. You've got to be humble about this, but ask other people, particularly those who are older students or your teachers or people who might be visiting to give you advice. Ask them for critiques, ask them for feedback, and don't be too nervous or worried about getting critiqued or having people tell you, hey, this isn't the best way to do this. Let me show you a better way. This is all part of the growth process. And really effective leaders are ones who I still do this to this day as department chair. I will still say, hey, I don't know everything. What can I learn from you? Help me out. I'm seeing this particular issue this way. Can you help me look at it from another perspective? So always be open to other people's ideas and to accept that as an opportunity to grow. Real leaders do that whether you have a leadership position or not. Study and practice is the next. Studying and practice kind of stink, right? Because they take up a lot of time and they're hard sometimes, and we don't always want to do that. We just kind of want to jump in and have the fun stuff. But if you're going to commit to being a great role model for students who come after you in a leadership position, if you hope to have one, you've got to behave as if you have one, even when you don't. So come prepared, ready to go, practice when nobody is watching, and make sure you're studying so that you understand the concepts and stories that you are trying to work on. People who are prepared are leaders in waiting, because one of the expectations that people will have of leaders is that they show up to work every day prepared and ready to go. And so study and practice just helps build those habits of being prepared that leaders will use once you get into that position. Last thing I'll recommend, watch your leadership team. Look at the juniors and seniors, or those who might be particularly good about what they do. It could even be a sophomore, but it's somebody you admire. Watch them, watch how they behave, see how they get their work done, see how they take critique and criticism from their teachers or from their guest speakers for the day. And always watch for the people who take that and learn from it, as opposed to the folks who just kind of get huffy and, well, they don't know what they're talking about. This is what I want to do. That's sort of a red flag generally for leadership quality, because folks who can't take instruction probably don't do very well giving instruction as well. And so always keep that in mind, that if as a leader, you hope that people will listen intently to what you give them, you have to be willing to listen intently and learn what other people are asking you to learn as well. So there's just a list of things that you could do without a leadership position, but this is putting you on the pathway toward leadership. How are we doing so far? Any questions about this section before I move on? We got one, maybe? Yes.
What do you think is the most important trait for someone in leadership to have?
Yeah, great question. And I know that if you ask this to 10 different people, you'll get 11 different answers, right? We'll have so many. But I'll tell you one that I really admire, and it's one that I try to embody, is one of humility. And I just try to let everybody know that, hey, I've got a job to do. I've been asked to do this. I'm going to do it as best as I can. And what I promise you is I will respect your time and your jobs, so much that I will make sure that I'm coming in prepared and ready to go. And I'm not going to be arrogant about it. I see this position as humbling because it gives me an opportunity to learn from you and everybody else. And it also gives me an opportunity to be humbled sometimes when things don't work out, or someone says, hey, that you did that wrong. You need to really do this. And so being a humble leader is what I try to emulate. And it's something that I ask my students who I train and help to do as well, because I think that gets you much, much more farther when you're trying to bring everybody to a common goal than being the type of leader that's unapproachable or kind of scary, or someone who just says, well, this is the way it is and you have to do it. I tend to react poorly to those, so I try not to act that way myself. Great question. Anything else related to those?
I got one more.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on, wait, I lost it. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so did you have someone teach you about leadership, or did you learn this by experience?
Great question too. And I know we've only got about 10 minutes, so I'll just kind of blow through these and keep going. But my dad had a high-ranking educational position, and he was just a great natural leader, but I learned several things from him. So I've got some of what I learned from watching or talking to my dad do his work. But I also learned a lot of this from watching other people who did things well, but then also watching people who did not do things well. And I remembered, yikes, I'm not going to do that. That works out badly. But then also some of it is just hard knocks. I learned things doing the job, and sometimes it's like, wow, that worked out great. Woo. And then sometimes it's, oh, that didn't, but I wish I'd known this a year ago. And so it's a combination of all of that. Great questions. So let me run through these real quick. I'll be kind of fast. And by the way, if any of you all want this, I'll be happy to email it to your teacher or any of you. I'll send you the PowerPoint. So real quick, leadership habits with a leadership position. You've got to express your values and visions clearly. Let everybody know where everybody needs to go. Don't be mysterious. Don't let them figure it out. That's poor leadership. Tell everybody what you expect of them and be clear about it. Build an inclusive and professional culture. By that, I mean, think of yourself as a teammate with everybody around you. Don't think of yourself as a boss. You are all working together. You each have roles to fill. Your role just might have to be, I'm responsible for getting some of this stuff happening, but we're all on the same team, and I value everybody's role. Use inclusive language. I did that at the beginning, like we, us, our. Express that vision so that everybody joins in. As a leader, always seek people's ideas, get some critical feedback. It's important that if your colleagues, I don't call them subordinates, they're not under you, they're your colleagues, you work with them. So always make sure that they are comfortable to give you feedback, even if it's critical feedback that maybe you don't want to hear. You need to empower everybody around you to say, hey, I know this may not be the way we want to go and it's your call, but I feel like I need to talk to you about this. So feel empowered to do that. As a leader, empower your team to talk about bad news or to challenge you even. It's important. Make time for people. If people need to talk, they need advice, make time for them. It's one of the most important things you can do as a leader. The next one is, if you haven't heard it yet, here's the first time, use it the rest of your life. Praise in public, critique in private. If somebody did something really great, play it up in front of the team, let everybody know how fabulous it was. If you've got to critique somebody, don't do it in the business meeting. Call them aside after, set up another time by yourself, and y'all just have a real quick meeting. And it's the kind of thing where you don't have to scold them. Just let them know, hey, I'm responsible for doing these things, and I'm being held responsible for what you all are doing. And hey, I need you to kind of come along on this. How can I help you do that? Always model professional behavior and expectations. It drives me nuts when leaders expect everybody else in the room to behave one way, but they do not model that behavior themselves. I don't understand it. I hate it. It's dumb. Don't do it. As a leader, you should be the model of professionalism and expectation for everybody else. So, leadership habits when no one is watching. Clean up the place. Make sure that you're working in a good environment and people get to come to work. Everything's kind of picked up and not trashed up in the morning. People don't enjoy picking up the trash. You can do that as a leader. Arrive early, but not too early. It does give you a few minutes of the day just to kind of get everything ready to go, kind of your thoughts, and starting the day off pretty good. Prepare to make appropriate sacrifices. Sacrifices include time. They include some stress sometimes. It includes maybe making your friends a little bit angry with you because you decided that everybody really needs to go in this direction, but a couple of people want to go in another direction. Your job is to make those difficult decisions. You're not going to please everybody, and it's okay. You don't have to make things bad about it, but sometimes there might be a few feelings hurt, and you all just need to work through that. Also, make sure that you're thinking and planning. Give yourself time to think. Give yourself time to plan. It'll pay off in the long run. Okay. And hey, we've got about 4 minutes left. That's really the quick hit. I want to thank you for your attention and your time. 30 minutes is such a short amount of time, but I would like to get 1 or 2 other questions in if anybody has those really quickly.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Hey.
Can you send this to my teacher?
Yeah. Tell you what, you all send me an email to this email right here, bcain1@una.edu. Take a photo of that. Send me an email and just say, hey, could you give me that PowerPoint and I'll send it.
Okay. And my question is, okay, is it okay to lead if there is already a leader?
Oh, terrific question. You know what? That gets a little touchy, right? It kind of depends on what you might be trying to do. And so let's say if you have a really good leader and you're just trying to model that and exhibit leadership as well, I think you could exhibit all of those qualities, practice those qualities, but maybe just stop short of expecting everybody to treat you as if you were the leader. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's like you can still emulate that, but also make sure that you are not potentially muddying the waters with like, well, who's leading? Is it you? Is it you? Who do I need to talk to here? Like you're not trying to take over, right? But if you're there to say, hey, I'm here to support them and they're doing great and I'm just wanting to help, I think that's great. It gets tricky when the leader is ineffective, and then it's a matter of people might be coming to you because you might be good at what you do, and then suddenly you kind of have 2 leaders, but one sort of a shadow leader, right? And in those kind of situations, I would recommend having maybe a difficult conversation with someone above you all, like your teacher, or someone to say, hey, I would like to speak confidentially about this. I've got a few folks who are coming, they're looking at me as sort of a leadership position here, but I'm not. This other person is. Give me some advice on how we need to deal with this, because I want to make sure I'm not causing any schisms in the room or anything like that. So it is a touchy situation, but you can always practice leadership. I think the best way to do it is if you practice being a leader, but you're not necessarily telling everybody what to do. If you're not the leader, then that doesn't create any potential friction, but it does let people know that you've got those skills and abilities and they'll naturally gravitate to you. Great question. Does that answer? Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah, terrific. What else?
What are some of the biggest challenges you think leaders are facing today?
Biggest challenges today?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Would you think maybe at high school or just like in mass media in general?
High school.
You know what? I think for those of you in high school, particularly high school journalism, one of the biggest challenges for you is that you're going to want to tackle sometimes topics that your teacher might think is a bad idea or even a good idea, but maybe your principal doesn't think is a good idea or the school superintendent doesn't think is a good idea. And so I recognize arguments on multiple sides of that. I'm not saying I support all of those. I'm saying I recognize them. But I would always come down with, if you really believe it's a type of story or topic that you need to cover, and it's really challenging and you're getting some pushback, see if you can find a way to cover it that still allows you to cover it, but you might have to negotiate how that coverage goes. And so it might not look exactly like you wanted it to, but think of it as a win along the lines of, I'm not going to get to cover it this way, and I don't want to cover it this way. And so I would like to cover it somehow. How can we get that out some way that covers some of what we want to do? That's going to be one of the biggest leadership challenges. Sometimes you might find your own teachers, other teachers in other school systems are really supportive of the work you're doing, but just because of hierarchy and things like that, they're in a bad spot. Sometimes to be able to, they might be told, no, you can't cover these kind of things, and you're not going to do it. So always keep in mind that there are other ways to cover something. It might take a little creative thinking in how you pitch it and how you cover it, but try to find a way to get it out there. What else? Do we have time for? I think it's 3:30, y'all. I think you got to go to one more.